Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm in my new studio. As you can see, things are finally getting, settled down in a sense. I have my bookshelf with some knickknacks and things like that behind me. Anyways, today I thought I would continue my series on Amazon S3. In the last video of this particular series, I went over kind of a high-level understanding of what S3 is. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend you guys to check it out. Anyways, in today's video, it's all about actually using S3. And as I mentioned in the last video, there's many ways to use S3, but today we're going to be looking at using the web UI, the interface, which is called the AWS console. So let's dive into the tutorial now. To get to the AWS console, you just go to, I usually just do AWS console. I search it in Google and it's usually like the first one or the second one. The exact URL is right here, aws.amazon.com. Let me move this a little bit so you guys. So if you've never signed in, you'll see something like this. It's usually like a like a home page, but what you need to do is sign into the console. Now I'm gonna skip this portion as it has my private information in terms of the console, but basically it's a login page. So if you've never done anything with AWS, you will have to make an AWS account. If you have Amazon Prime, you actually already have access to this console, I believe, but you just need to provide basic information, and I think you need to provide a credit card information as well, because most of these services will charge you some amount. But one thing to note is that almost every single service has a free trial, and you just have to be mindful when you're creating these services that these things can cost you money. You just have to make sure to delete all the resources that you used. So I'm gonna full screen real quick. So just to give you kind of like this dashboard, like console, like initial load. Right here is like the AWS search bar. You could find your services over here as well. This drop down has all the services. So the idea is that from any page in AWS, you can go to any resources, and you could also pin your favorite resources. So look at all these resources, like services that AWS has. There's so many. Hopefully we'll go through most of them, at least the most popular ones in this particular series. So we're gonna go to S3, so just type in S3, and if you don't have any buckets, then this is kind of the view that you're gonna see. So I deleted all my buckets to show you guys kind of like a fresh experience. But in this tutorial, we're gonna do a few things. So we're gonna create a bucket, and I'm gonna kind of go over some of the options that are kind of important, because there's a lot of options that you could go into creating a bucket. We're gonna create like an index.html file, and upload it to the bucket, and then we're gonna try to consume that bucket using like the browser or something. So that's kind of this tutorial, and it will give you kind of the nuts and bolts of using S3. Also, finally, we'll make sure to delete our object and also our bucket as well. So in my opinion, this particular tutorial is not very technical. It's if you ever use a content management system like some CMS, then you'll be able to like intuitively be able to do all of these things. So basically, let's go ahead and create our bucket. So in here, this is kind of like the bucket creation form, and the important thing to know here is just like the bucket name. As I mentioned in my previous video, bucket names have like a global namespace, meaning that you can't do something like tests, because most likely someone has already created a bucket called tests. So let's create like a bucket. So I was doing like sole encoded test earlier, so let's create that. Now this is kind of important. What this is AWS, the way they make everything resilient is by having a lot of regions, and regions are just kind of large segmented areas of the world where they have like physical data centers, right? So cloud computing in a nutshell is just using someone else's computer, and yeah, and in case we're using AWS's computers, right? So here's all these places, and one thing to know here is you want to choose something that's closest to where you are if you want to have faster time access, or technically you should use it where you think your customers are going to be. So in my case, this is I live in California, so I'm going to choose US West. And then if you have like another existing bucket, this is like you could just copy all the configurations. Since you won't have any buckets, just feel free to go to next. And here is where you'll first see a lot of configuration options, and you may be like, oh my gosh, there's so many. I'll just go through one by one briefly, high level. So keeping all the versioning allows you to, like, every time you change items inside the bucket, it will make like if you ever use Git, it's like version control. It's very similar to that, but again, all these little features will increase the cost of your service, basically, that you're using. Service access logs, you actually need another bucket to ship your logs to, but basically it's like access logs. If you ever like dealt with like server code or anything like that, then the server, anytime someone accesses that server, it creates a log. It says like it's an audit trail essentially. We don't need to do that right now. For tags are mainly used for your own sake. It's to do like cost, and also you could search by tags. So we don't really need to do anything here, but a lot of companies use it. In my company, we have at least like 3 minimum tags that we need to put in here that like signifies which line of business is using it, and what our particular project is, and who the owners are, like things like that. Those kind of information is very critical, and none of the buckets that we create at work, if they don't have it, then it will just like get flagged and get deleted. So object level logging is a little bit different than the server access logging. Object level logging is for each of the items that we have, but basically it's additional logging, and it uses a service called CloudTrail. Here, this is basically encryption at rest. So if for any reason the file gets, it probably won't, because AWS is pretty secure, but if for any reason, if this particular files that get downloaded without like the proper authentications, then just having this option will make sure that it's encrypted. So the person who hijacked your file somehow won't be able to see it. So I just usually use the AES 256 rules. If you want to use a key management system that AWS provides, you kind of have to set that up. So I just recommend using this. It's pretty much, I think it's free. So this advanced setting is if you want to make sure that there's only one setting here, but if you want to make sure that your file like doesn't get like deleted or things like that, or your bucket doesn't get deleted, then you do permanently allow objects to be locked. Basically it's to prevent things from getting deleted. CloudWatch is another like monitoring service. Again, just like CloudTrail, you need to it requires payment, right? So we don't really need to do this because we're just kind of testing things out. So but yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's not too, all of these are actually really good, like these are features. So don't let them like hang you up from using this service. It's very, very easy to use. So here is this, generally you just want to block all public access by default. Because if you don't, then you essentially let everyone do whatever they want with your own bucket. Yeah, that's not good, right? So in there's something called ACLs, which is access control lists, and later on you'll see that in the set permissions you could set this really like granularly. Anyways, so I'll just do block all public access and then hit next. So here it's kind of we're double checking. So this is the last step. My camera's kind of hiding it, but it's just to review what your rules are. So let's go ahead and create the bucket. So there you go, we created a bucket. So in my last video I mentioned that the S3 service is like an object-based storage, and this looks like a file directory, but it actually isn't. S3 is a flat structure, and what that means is that this looks like a folder, but it actually isn't. It's like a constant time access to this. This is a direct like URL. So let's go into this bucket. You could go into this bucket, and here when we're in, you could upload and create folders. They just call it folders, but it's really just a path. But yeah, so here's some like properties. These are all the properties that we kind of like chose and disabled. So as you saw, we had the default encryption, right? But there's like other things that you can do here. Basically anything that you were able to do earlier, you could do on this step. So if you that's like the beauty of it. If you messed up, you could go back and fix it. And I want to kind of show you this like events. Like this is one of the coolest things that I personally think for like using S3. So you could add like notifications here, and what this means is that on these kind of events to S3 you can trigger certain things like send notifications. So you could send it to like an SNS topic, which is like a simple notification service, SQS, which is a simple queue service, and Lambda function. Like this is a big one. So at my work, what I do is I set up a lot of ETLs, which stands for extract, transfer, and load. And what it's basically data pipelines. S3 is used a lot in like intermediary like steps, to pull data and then store it in a temporary place and then ship it and then delete it. So they do a lot of those things, and it's really cool stuff. Like I use this to manage and sync data, or like even DB migrates and things like that. So it's very flexible. I'll definitely show you guys this later. But yeah, so here's permissions, access control list, and this is where you can set like different like users. Here's the bucket policy. Now the bucket policy is kind of like a JSON-esque, it's basically JSON actually, of policies. I could show you later, but basically you could also use this like policy generator to say, oh, allow SQS, for example, and then it like spits out a JSON, and then you could paste it in here. For now, don't worry about this. And management is life cycles. I mentioned life cycles in the other particular video. Basically allows you to add these lifecycle rules. I'm not going to add them right now because it's not like necessary for this video. But yeah, so there's replication, analytics, metrics, all of which you don't really need to know right away to be able to use this, but they're highly useful later on when you want to do more interesting things with your S3 buckets. But for now, I'm going to go to the next portion, which is essentially uploading a file to S3. And it's really simple to do. So let's go ahead and I don't know, create a file real quick. All right, so I created a quick directory. Let me just bump this up a little bit. So I created a quick directory. Let's touch the index.html. Okay. All right, this may be too big, but let's go ahead and create like an HTML tag. Let's say body, and then P, and let's just say hello world. All right, let's do that. Cool. So let's just open this real quick, and then so what I do is you just hit upload, and then you could, basically there's two ways. You could add the file by navigating to it, or you could just simply drop it right here, and then you say next. And then here, one thing you need to be careful is like permissions again. You could add different accounts, but let's just go ahead and, so here I mentioned before in my previous video like the different type of S3 like redundancy, and like there's infrequent access right here. Glacier is for like long-term storage, and they kind of have all the costs and everything here. But yeah, so let's just go ahead and create it real quick, and you just upload it, and that's it. So you could just go here and you could download this file. So let's go ahead and download it and check it out. This is hello world. One thing that you need to know is right here, you see this object URL. This is your essentially, so this object URL is essentially your location, like constant time access location for this particular file. Now when you go to it right now, because this file is not public access, it'll probably say like access denied or say access denied. The reason why this is because we blocked all public access. And I started with this example like so is because I don't want your guys' files to be accessed by accidents by like just random people. Now I'm going to show you how to explicitly set
your permission like bucket policy back so that you could access this file like anywhere essentially. Alright, so what you do is you go back to your bucket and then you go to permissions, and then basically you need to edit and then do block all public access. You check that off, you save. Here it's going to ask you to write like confirm, so you confirm. Now the next thing is what you need to do is you have to go back into your file and you have to make it public. So the files itself also have permissions. So when you make it public, now when you go to this URL, you'll see our hello world example. And the reason why this is shown like this is because it's an index.html file, so the browser knows what to do with it. One thing I wanted to point out here is the path is like this is for me to prove that the folder structure that you saw is actually flat. So right here is our bucket name, and then this right here is the service. Here is a region. This is the host, essentially the Amazon AWS.com. This is the domain, and then / index.html, which is our basically the root, which is our bucket / index.html, right? So if I created like a folder, for example, let's create like a folder, said dir1, for example, and then we went into this directory and we uploaded like another file, basically the same file. So where is that? So I'm going to upload this file in here. Go into this file, make this public, navigate to that, and then you'll see dir / index.html. So it's just a flat structure, right? So that's pretty much it for uploading a file. Obviously, let's go quickly and delete these files. So you could do like just straight up delete or rename. Just delete quickly. Here you could select the whole thing and delete it. There's also a way to like batch all of this, batch delete everything. But yeah, so let's go back and also delete our bucket, and then here you need to write the name of the bucket, confirm, and there you go. We've cleaned up the S3 environment, so it will not charge you anymore.
So there you have it. That's a very quick look on how you could use S3 today. So I know this video didn't have that much coding. In the next video, we will be diving into the CLI, which is the command line interface. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know the videos have been a little bit sparse. Hopefully that's gonna change as I get this studio up and running and a more proper schedule. So look forward to my next videos, and I'll see you guys next time.